Welcome to the Middle Room Workshop. Today I'm going to present you the first laser engraver by Longer, the Longer Ray 5. I'll share with you my initial thoughts, then I'll tell you what I like, what I don't like, and whether you should consider on buying it or not. Without further ado, let's get into it. If you've been into the 3D printing world, I'm sure that at some point you've been hearing about the brand. Longer has been in the market for many years, and as far as I know, they've been producing good quality FDM and racing 3D printers, which have stood up to competition. The Longer Ray 5 is their first machine to enter the engraving industry, laser engraving industry, and from what I can tell, they did a remarkable job with this machine. Now, the fact that the brand has had many years of experience in 3D printing technology, which is normally more complicated than laser engraving technology, means that they will be more than capable on getting into the market. As usual, I will break down the review into multiple sections so that it is easy for you to follow. So I will cover packaging, assembly, design, then I will go to the features, the performance, the softwares, the materials, and then towards the end I will talk about what I like, what I don't like, and ultimately I'll tell you whether you should consider buying the machine or you should discard it at all. And so if you're interested to skip to some of the section that I've mentioned, have a look in the description below. You will find all the timestamps, or simply hover onto the timeline. You will see that there are segments, so you can skip directly to the point of interest. Also, if you want to know more about the specification of the machine, or if you're considering on buying, I'll put a link in the video description below where you can find all of the latest deals about the machine. Alright, so without wasting any more time, let's get into the actual stuff. The machine comes in a typical brown box with foam, and everything is nicely packed and categorized inside. And in the package you will basically find everything you will need to get started, including the tools, the Googles, the SD card with the a card reader, and also some testing material, so you can get started right away. And they also include a couple of files so that if you have no clue where to start from, you can actually see the machine in action as soon as you assemble it. The assembly, I have to say, it wasn't as straightforward as other machines that I've been reviewing in the channel. However, I believe that it's still relatively simple, and it took me about 15 minutes. Other than that, they provide a very nice assembly manual with the 3D renders, and everything is numbers. Everything, along with also the small packages with the components, everything is numbered, so it will be very easy for you to follow. That should guarantee some smooth assembly experience. If you still get some trouble, you cannot really understand how some things are going together, they also put up a very well done assembly video, and I'll put the link also in the video description below so that you can find that. The only tricky part that I found is for the actual installation of the timing belt, which has to go into the rails, then it has to come out over the pulley, back down, and then go out from the other side. And I handled this part with a very small slot screwdriver. So once I pull it out, I stick it back in, and it was pretty much all good to go. The machine has a pretty standard design and is comparable with other machines in the market. It has a high-profile gantry axis, and all of the components like the rails, the motors, and the driving system, they are off-shelf, which means that if something gets damaged, you can easily find it on the market. As usual, I really like the markings that they applied on the rails, so you have this reference system. It is not exact because it's far away from the actual engraving area, but it's still giving you a good indication on where the things are. Other than that, I usually recommend on fixing the machine to a sheet of plywood or MDF, and then to use the machine itself to create its own grid engraved down. Now, the brand is also providing you a set with the brackets, the bolts, and the wood screws to fix the machine onto a board, which is really cool. What I liked is that the fit, the support of the machine, they have holes with thread on them, so it will be actually very easy to install the brackets. The one thing I didn't like though is that the corner where the display is located has no brackets, so that corner is going to be free. And so this is something that you want to keep in mind in case you are going to lift off the machine. I highly recommend you to grab the board of plywood or MDF if you need to do so. Otherwise, you will stress the frame and you might even deform it. So pay attention to that. The interesting part of the machine, I'm sure you've seen it in the intro, is the display, and this is actually the offline controllers. And so with this, we get down into the future of the machine. Now, as I said, for other machines that I've been reviewing, an offline controller, in my view, it's a must. Every machine should come with it. I know some brand provide it as an optional accessory, which in turn makes the machine a little bit cheaper, and so you can buy it if you need it. You can upgrade it at any time. But really, in my opinion, if you have the budget, I will highly recommend you to go for a machine with an offline controller, or to buy the machine with the offline controller. I mean, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense in keeping your PC or laptop running throughout the engraving process. Once the design is ready with the power and the speed settings, you just export the G-code file, save it onto an SD card, which, as I said, it's provided by the brand, along with the USB reader, and then you're basically good to go. And this is basically the same workflow you would use for a 3D printer, okay? Beside, if you have the machine in your shop or garage, you don't really want to keep your computer busy there with the machine connected and to work with it. The interface, other than that, is also quite simple. Now, if you've been seeing their 3D printers, or if you've been owning one, you will notice that the interface is familiar. So they use basically the same theme or style, if we can say it in this way, and it's fairly simple to use. What I like compared to other offline controller that I've been reviewing is that you basically have the option to control the machine, so you can jog around and to check other settings without having to insert the SD card. And so this is something cool, in my opinion. The machine comes with a bunch of safety features, some of which they are common with most machines, including the tilt protection and also the shock protection, which will prevent the machine from overdriving. But the one that really caught my eye is what they call the thermal protection, but it's more like a fire protection. Basically, there is an infrared sensor that, if senses high temperature or an actual flame coming out, will basically stop the machine. And so this will basically prevent the machine or the surrounding and the material from catching on fire. And this, I have to say, is a cool feature to have, especially if you leave the machine unattended, so you can have an extra peace of mind that if something goes wrong, this safety feature will basically kick in. Alright, let's now talk about performance. The machine comes built in a 32-bit microcontroller with a clock speed of 240 MHz. Now, this might not be one of the most interesting features for most of you, but bear in mind that that's what makes the machine fast, because having a faster computational power with a 32-bit microcontroller, you can basically engrave faster. And so, speaking of which, the machine is rated for a top speed of 6,000 millimeters per minute. Now, if you're following my channel, you know that I usually say this: as long as a machine can reach 5,000 millimeters per minute, you are basically good to go. In my day-to-day use of laser engravers for engraving purpose only, not for cutting, I never go beyond the 3 to 4,000 millimeters per minute. And the reason for that is because the faster you go, the less precise it's going to be. Now, the controlling software or the software that prepares the G-code compensates for speed. Other than that, bear in mind that the power is relevant. Usually the power of the laser module that you have installed on your machine is the limiting factor for the speed, because these two parameters, they work together, and keeping the power fixed, the faster you go, the lighter or the shallower, less deep, it's the actual engraving result. And so there will be some trade-off within power and speed. Alright, let's now talk about laser module. At the time of recording this video, the machine comes with a 5.5 watt laser module with a fixed focus, with a 30mm focal length, and the brand claims it has a square spot with a 0.08 millimeters side dimension. I have to say that I was impressed about the power of the laser module, despite it's a 5 to 5.5 watt optical output laser module, which is comparable to other laser modules out there. It performed quite well, and I was able to go through 3mm of plywood at 90% with a speed of 300 millimeters per minute, which is remarkably high. Now, if you need higher powers, at the time of recording this video, there is no other laser module available from the brand. Other than that, I understood that they should come up with an 8 to 10 watt laser module by May, and so I believe that after May 2022 you will be able to find it available on their website for purchase. Software wise, the machine works with GRBL type of software, and so here you will find the two most common softwares, which are Laser GRBL, which is a free software but is only available on Windows, and then Lightbarn, which is a paid software. It costs somewhere around $50, but you can find sometimes good deals with it, and is available for both Windows and Mac, and even Linux if you are a Linux user. This, in my opinion, is the software to go if you are intending to do a lot of projects with your machine, because it will really improve your productivity. You know, it comes built-in vectorial editing tools, so you can basically design also inside of it, and so will make your life much easier. In addition, the machine will also work offline. The machine is built in Wi-Fi, and there is this interesting application, which is the application from the microcontroller. So basically, once you connect to your Wi-Fi network, the machine will basically generate an IP address, and you can basically copy and paste, or basically write down the IP address in the browser, either in your PC, laptop, or your smartphone, and this will open up a controlling interface. And I have to say that it's a very well built interface. I really like the way it is done. Now, you will only be able to work with G-codes there, which is a type of file that you can work with. But overall, it's a very well done file. What I like about it is that, say for example, you start the job with the SD card and the machine is located, say, in your garage. You can remotely access with your smartphone. You can see what's the status of the machine and what is going on. So this is a cool feature. Speaking about files, you will be able to work out with most files recognized by the controlling software, and these are most raster type. Also DXF, for example, if you are an AutoCAD user or other kind of CAD software, and then all sort of G-codes, which are specialized file for CNC type of machines. So this includes laser engravers, 3D printers, and CNC routers, for example. All right, let's now talk about the material. What kind of material will you be able to engrave or cut? Now, in my opinion, pretty much everything. Now, talking about engraving, you will be able to engrave natural materials like wood, plywood, MDF, cartoon, leather, plastic materials like acrylic and ABS. You will also be able to mark on metals or hatch away if you will. As per cutting, you will be able to cut through natural materials, again, wood, plywood, MDF, leather, and plastics like acrylic and ABS. I mean, the limitation is only how deep you can go. This is normally given by the focal length, the hot part of the laser. But for a laser like this one, you can easily handle 4 to 5 millimeters, and sometimes also all the way up to 8 millimeters. And so it all depends. Other than that, even materials which normally cannot be marked or engraved with this kind of laser diode technology. If you're following my channel, you know that there is a trick for everything, and so you can create temporary coating, or any way you can have a trick that will basically allow you to engrave on those materials as well. Alright, it's now time to talk about the goods and the bad. So what I like and what I don't like. And let's start right away with the bad things. Now, what I didn't like particularly is the way you perform the adjustment of the laser module, which is a little bit awkward. And that's because, despite it is fairly easy to do, you basically have two balls with a knob, and they have to be loosened up together, okay? Once you loosen them up, because the two balls, they're basically screwed on the fixed plate and not on the laser module, you will need to use another finger, like your pinky, to basically rise up or lower down the laser module accordingly. The other thing that I didn't like is during the assembly, the stoppers. Now, the gantry axis on top has physical stoppers to prevent the axis from traveling too far back or too far in front, which is good. However, the stoppers, which are actual balls, they are only on one side, so they are on the left side. And so, because of this, squaring the machine, that means making sure that the axes are perfectly perpendicular and you get square angles. It's basically a little bit trickier, because you will need to run a squaring test, and that's something that you can do with a simple square with two diagonals, and then to measure the diagonals, and then to adjust a couple of times the timing belt on one of the two sides. So, from my opinion, they could have simply had the extra screw on the opposite side, and it would have made the things way simpler. So you could have squared it right away without having to test trial a couple of times. And then the third thing is that the machine has no home, or in other words, it doesn't have limiting micro switches which define the physical origin position 0, 0 of the axis. Alright, let's now talk about what I like instead. Now, as I said and I emphasized, I really like the offline controller with the touchscreen display, because like this, you don't need to keep your PC or laptop running along with the engraving process. So this makes your life much simpler. Second thing that I like is the fire protection safety feature. So it gives you an extra peace of mind. If you leave the machine unattended, you will know that the system will kick in case something goes wrong. Then I really like the surprisingly high power. As I said, compared to other laser module, it did pretty well considering the type of material that I cut the most, and so I was able to cut at a relatively high speed, and so I was really impressed about that. And finally, the ease of adjustment. Alright, it's time to tell you whether you should consider or discard this machine. Now, based on my experience with laser engraving machines and all the other machines that I've been reviewing in my channel, I would definitely throw it into the shopping cart. Now, I know that I've said that there are a bunch of things that I don't like, but that's something that you can actually cope with it. They're not that bad. I mean, some of them, they are only during the assembly, and so they are of the type set it and forget it. The other things like setting up the height adjustment, this is still fairly simple and easy. Bear in mind that some other manufacturer, they require you to use an Allen key or some kind of tools to loosen up a clamp, and then you have to use a ruler to position the height, so that's actually bad. And the third thing is about the home. Now, I'm of the opinion that every machine should come with a home. However, as I said, for other machines without home that I've been reviewing in this channel, it all depends on your workflow. I oftentimes switch from absolute coordinate system, which means using the home, from a current position, which means manual positioning. And so if you are the type of person that likes to move the laser head by hand and then to set it and launch the engraving, I mean, you are free to do it, and you don't need to have micro switches to have a home. On the other hand, you're also able to push the laser all on one corner and to set your custom origin, and so that is going to be your actual virtual home. Now, if you want to know more about all the specification of the machine, or if you are considering on buying it, I'll put the link in the video description below, and through the same link you will be able to find the latest deals to buy the machine. Alright, and this is pretty much all. I hope you found my video helpful. If you enjoy it, click the thumb up button below. If you have any comment, leave them in the comment section below. I'll be ready to reply to any comments. And if you want to see more video like this one, speaking about laser engraving tips and tricks, I would highly recommend you subscribing to my channel. Ciao for now!